And I'm very excited to go into this conversation because two of the people that we'll be listening to today and learning from today are seasoned professionals, seasoned leaders, and have results to be able to back up their success. We're going to be focusing on stewardship phase of fundraising, but then also how to build long-term donor loyalty. One of our guests that will be coming up here shortly has built a career on implementing processes company-wide that has not just transformed ROI, but also transformed people. Like, how do we personalize our stewardship at scale? How do we design follow-up systems that deepen trust and engagement? What happens after the gift? And how do we develop leaders within our organizations that can take what we're doing, what we're learning, and be able to disperse it amongst our teams and amongst our followers? So I am just, again, y'all know I've been excited all day, but I'm so excited for this conversation with Anna and Brooklyn. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you guys doing today? Thanks for having us.
I'm amazing. Anna, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
I'm glad you're feeling better. We missed you last week.
Thank you. It's back school germ season.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's that time of the year. It is
all you
definitely
need
that
is
time of the
one
year.
sick kid, and then it's
Oh
spread.
no, once one gets sick, the whole household gets sick. It's like, oh my gosh. Questions for you both. And let's get this party started today. Who are you? If somebody was to ask you to describe yourself in one sentence, what would you say?
That's such a good one. Brooklyn, do you want to go first?
I can go first. I would have to say that I am a mustard seed.
Mm,
Through and through.
that's good. That's one sentence. I like it.
That's a hard one to match. I'm thinking over here two things: fierce and advocate. So I am a fierce advocate.
That's good. I would say that I'm a coffee bean.
A coffee bean. Did I need to be a seed?
That's good. I would say that I'm a coffee bean. I heard a story a while ago, and it talked about how when you put a coffee bean in the boiling water, it changes the water rather than the environment changing the coffee bean. And I try to step into spaces and change environments and change people. So how I approach education when I was teaching and when I was leading was, how can I change this ecosystem or this environment for it to be better when I leave? When I come on these shows, how can I ask a question so that they could give an answer that can change an audience member? How can I show up in spaces and truly produce change? And that leads me to my first question for the both of you. But Brooklyn, I'd love for you to be able to answer this first, because we've had plenty of conversations about this. What is one change in an organization that you've made that you're most proud of?
Oh, yeah. Talk about putting me on the spot right away from the jump. Thanks, Kyle. I would have to say I am most proud of working with descendants in corporate America for a long stretch to get them to donate the first parcel of land here in Kalamazoo County, that we have an actual site attraction called the Kalamazoo Air Zoo. And it was the very first parcel of land that has not been sold since 1912. And it was the very first parcel that we had sold. And it took me about 4.5 years to work on.
That's good.
Once we sold that for only $1, just a simple dollar, it opened up the doors to a lot of economic growth here in Portage, Michigan. So that's very nice. And it's something where I go to chamber meetings all the time, and people are like, oh, hey, there's B, the infamous B, the one that got that land for $1. But it takes a team. It takes a village. And I had a village behind me. I just was spearheading it. So,
but of course. I appreciate you sharing that, Brooklyn. I never even knew that. That's powerful. I appreciate that. Anna, what are you thinking? What's a change that you've been able to make that you're most proud of?
I would have to say in my current employer, I'm the first corporate philanthropy officer that's ever been hired. I was the fourth hire on our team. And I think through just influence and sharing best practices and being very collaborative, every time I bring an opportunity to the table, it's welcomed and well received in terms of like, let's execute so that we can build the infrastructure for a 20-year organization to receive
That's
corporate philanthropy gifts and to actually be known as a nonprofit organization that needs and has the need and has the process in place to receive corporate funding, particularly over the last 5 years. I've been with my team 3 years this upcoming Thanksgiving. So I think I'm very proud of that. It kind of gave me the indication that that's why they wanted me to come over. And I'm like, oh, we're
yeah,
just gonna take all of Anna's ideas and
yeah.
try to put them in place. But and then at my previous job, I think it was becoming that's where I actually got the tagline Amazing Anna.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm naturally so resourceful.
Yeah.
Um, I would inherit either relationships or partnerships that were being underserved or overlooked, and or that they were just unhappy customers with us, and kind of taking it to the opposite, right, in terms of making them happy customers, returning customers, and really addressing their needs. So
Well, let me ask you this because we just had a question come in for you, Anna. How can nonprofits build long-term relationships without making donors feel like they're only being contacted when money is needed? And Brooklyn, if you have insights on that question, I'd love to hear your answers as well.
That's an excellent question. And I think for me personally, I've only been in the fundraising space for the last 5 or so years. So by default, the majority of my career in workforce development and leadership development within the nonprofit space has been on stewarding relationships and partnerships that
Mhm.
generate revenue. So
Okay.
I always see it as the relationship first, in that the output is the revenue. Like we're not going to be able to ask people that are not aligned, that don't know us well, that have us miscategorized, right? They think that we do this when we really do this, without having that trust and without having the relationship. So for me, it's as simple as it sounds. It's about listening to the nonprofit or the prospective funder, you know, obviously doing your research in terms of what is it that matters to them, what is coming up for them on the horizon. Are they growing, are they retracting, are they trying to be more tech savvy, are they trying to do more with less, and then I think it's the human beings that you interact with, right? I just had a stewardship call, and it was more focused on like, as people, what are we seeing, what are we feeling in our day to day, and remembering those things, right? I like to engage funders. The last outreach I want to do is the actual ask, right? Because I'm like, I'm thinking of, I saw an article and I'm thinking of you, or I recall you said X, Y, and Z during the last conversation. How is that? So that follow up, and just demonstrating to them that you are listening to them and that you care for them as people, not just what they can offer you. I think that's what's important, because once you have that trust and those open line of communications, that completely can shift a relationship.
You know, this next question is for you, Brooklyn, because you've built a lot of processes and you are an expert in being able to take an idea, develop a process, identify personnel, and scale it organizational wide.
Mhm.
How do you approach developing intentional processes that just make organizations better?
Working backwards. I mean, almost everything I've ever done for system implementation, deployment, succession planning, you really need to know every process, every person, every direction that you need to go. But it's not as simple as taking it from the front end going forward. A lot of people out there are front end users. And for me in particular, I'm a back end user. So I start with your end result, work your way backwards, and test that theory, working your
Mhm.
way again forward. That has been pretty much through and through in my 26 years of experience. Every single process, every single standard, every single deployment, implementation, etc., has been that way alone.
Can you talk to me? Let's say I'm not gifted in the way that you're gifted.
Hmm.
Let's say that, I'm new to this, but I want to be able to do what you do.
Okay.
Could you talk to me about some things that I would need to either learn or implement or be able to do differently so that I could be able to approach work from kind of that a perspective of backwards designing?
Yeah. So a lot of it, like even in HR, we call it reverse sourcing or reverse hiring, same exact philosophy. You know your end goal, you know the job description, you know the talent, the strengths, et cetera, that you're looking for. I think the very first thing for me, Kyle, especially in corporate, because I spent my first 20 years in corporate, is really knowing your accountability and the consistent stewardship amongst your team. It's all about collaboration. If you're not a high collaborator, you really need to start deepen the trust within your team and long term. It could be a long term project, long term donor engagement. Either way that you're looking at it, you really need to know every key player amongst that team. So if you were to take, let's say, one of my 2 deployments for SAP at Pfizer, it is knowing those key players. The first go around in 04, 05, I had no idea who anyone per se was, but pulling 66 people off of their role and being able to backfill them. I don't know who those leaders are, who
Yeah.
is the next up and coming leader, but the team lead that I'm pulling for that project, they do. They
Ah,
can backfill it. They know who is their strong lead. Also, I think a lot of people have a misconception when it comes to system implementations that it's just, oh, a person in that seat and a body in that seat. It doesn't work like that. You really have to be skilled. I was fortunate enough to have IBM teams to be able to bring my experience even farther than where I'm at today. But I was able to lean on them when need be. Pulling 70 people off a job to be able to deploy a 2.5 year platform is a big deal. But you also have to be able to move steadily and move that needle with every cross divisional team seamlessly. And
that's
it's
good.
something that, coordinators, project managers, I'm a project manager by trade before I ever fell into HR. And that's really the success of working my way backwards, figuring out all the components that you need, and then having a stellar beta testing collaboration team, and then having your expert team too, because it's not just a one and done. You shut down a facility 2 weeks later, you're back up again. You better have a call center to fuel that. And it's an amazing process, but it's also very experience based too.
That's good.
Mhm.
And I have a question that came in for you as well. What does genuine stewardship look like in 2025? What
Ooh,
are donors actually expecting beyond the thank you email?
yes.
Um, I think I'm getting all the difficult questions, even though I love hearing about your experience, Brooklyn, because I was
Sorry,
thinking
Anna.
the only reason why I know about Kalamazoo is because I actually tried to recruit talent there when I was at Inroads for Pfizer. Because I was like, I need to look this place up. Is this real? So this is like a boomerang moment here for me. So loved hearing about that experience um, with Pfizer for you, Brooklyn. I think donors are looking for transparency,
Mhm.
and it is often difficult to navigate transparency because you don't know how it's going to be received, particularly like I'm completely virtual, right? So my days of being able to engage people and just show up in their office um, are non-existent, right? So it has to be driving impact, being transparent, when you don't have the answers readily available to their questions about, well, what is my investment doing? Or, I noted this particular line item in the report you sent and it doesn't match. Like being able to tell the story. Well, this is where we're at, right? And we need a little bit more time. Or we did some research, right, or some analysis and realize that these are the trends, the hiring trends, right? Or what's happening in a particular hiring industry that are impacting our ability to generate internships for our young adults and or to get career accelerating opportunities for our young adults. So I think outside of the thank you email, which has to be very customized to that particular funder, um, they are expecting that. I want to say that the other thing that I have seen you utilize a lot are video testimonials, um, infographics. I'm seeing a lot more use of infographics and video testimonials for within the philanthropy space, period,
Yeah.
right? And for me, it's like, well, what particular pieces of that story do I know is going to resonate with
Yeah.
a particular funder? Whether it's a funder that cares about HBCUs or a funder that cares about HSIs, is it someone that is it a funder that's particularly focused on the engagement or just how many lives are we touching? So being able to distinguish what those factors are per funder, and then of course utilizing the resources available in terms of tech and innovation and what your marketing teams are capable of is trying to meet them there, which can be tricky sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But you have to learn to navigate in terms of like having those testimonials and those student stories. Our organization is very well known for the coaching model that it implements with the work we do with young adults. So one of the things that I've consistently brought to the table is we need to be sharing more of our coaching. Who are our coaches? Why do they do this work? As industry experts with years and years of experience, why do they then come to profit to then coach and develop the next generation of leaders within that particular function, within that particular industry, or that particular job? So that is something that we've been doing more and more of, particularly this calendar year, so that it's not all focused on the recipient, but like who are all of the players that also make this work real and impactful. And for us, it's the coaches, right, that are working directly with our young adults.
Now, Brooklyn, this question's for you. I got a challenging one for you too that came in. You talked about earlier that you grow teams and deploy in various aspects of the work that you do. How do you balance personalization with scalability? In other words, how can smaller teams maintain authentic, ongoing relationships without burning out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And kind of to Anna's previous point, I agree with her 100%. Transparency is the number one thing people are looking, but a close second to that, I think, is honesty. Know if the donors know exactly the position of where everyone is at, you're probably going to have higher donor retention because it comes down to speed, specificity. Also, it's going to be ownership as well. So as long as you have that, it could be a same day personalized acknowledgement. It could be that dedicated internal. I, in fact, just had that recently in my own community where there wasn't a dedicated internal ownership. And I was like, well, who do I contact if I want to up, maybe 125 is not enough. Like,
Yeah.
what if I want to add more? So those are all hitting the same exact chord. But I think really to Anna's previous point, and I want to touch on that real quick, Kyle, I really do believe in this day and age in almost anything, it's transparency and honesty that really gets you far. And then building into small teams, I think that's what we do really well. And, I have a small HR technology firm here in Michigan. And with our small firm, those two core values are at the very top of our core values because it's what we sustain our current clientele, but also it is what we're putting out there. You guys both earlier heard me say I'm a mustard seed. It's in my bio. It's in everything I do. It's ingrained in me and my heart in the way that I've gotten that from my higher power. I always will remain a mustard seed, showing a light to everyone out there. People are going to gravitate towards it or they're not. In building and curating small teams is easy for me when you're genuine and you're really your authentic self.
That's good. Anna, we coming back to you now. And it's
I
interesting.
think I'm ready.
Brooklyn, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the question is, if an organization wanted to improve donor retention starting tomorrow, what's the first step they should take after a gift is given?
Acknowledgement.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the things seem very, very basic,
Mhm.
but people, especially when we can sit in, I think you said, Kyle, you've been doing this for 7 hours today. You've been sitting in
Yeah,
front of your computer, engaging with people, and
yeah,
you're not in a room, you're not in a shared space, right? And it's like you're moving from one thing to the next. And people they want to feel heard and seen.
yeah,
And I think that oftentimes we get stuck with it has to be perfect, or it's not my job to do it, it's someone else's job to do it.
yeah,
But for me, it's like, well, how can I enable whomever's job that is to quickly acknowledge a gift, right? And respond and say, I've received this. Um, Delighted to receive your gift. Give us a day or two to circle back with a formal acknowledgement. So I like to kind of be honest, right? In that exchange, in terms of like, give me the time that I need to get you a formal acknowledgement.
mhm,
In essence, that response, that immediate response to them is an acknowledgement of their gift. And then you send them, on the letterhead with a personalized message, with the PDF document that they need for their files. Then you send along the message with all the bells and whistles. But
yeah,
it's that acknowledgement. And then also one of the things that I've also realized, particularly when the fundraising team is not as close with the direct service team or the program teams, is then sharing that news with all of the people whose work that impacts.
that's good. That's good.
It's all about connecting those dots, right? Because if I can get or quote a coach or a program lead or a recruiter or someone that's working directly with the students in my formal acknowledgement, then that is even more than me just saying thank you on the receiving end, because that's my job, right? But then I do try to connect those dots for folks in terms of like, this is a incoming gift for this particular cohort or for this particular project. I'm going to be in the process of formally acknowledging this donor, any thoughts or words that you can share with me. So that's how I rope people in, because it's not just me as the fundraiser. I'm just on the receiving end. My job is to just go out there and find it and keep them happy so that they can continue to support our projects and our work.
That's good. Brooklyn, I feel like you had something to add. I don't know.
I
I
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Anna is saying. I think the personalization at scale, without the burnout is key. You're working in a lot of different, CRM driven workflows, automations, different frameworks. I think making sure that you have those pre built before anything launches, and then having that tiered effect, the tiered stewardship tracks, being able to really just have those introductions, those referrals, any digital responses that you can go ahead and give that doesn't seem highly automated is going to be better. We always call that high impact 45-day stewardship framework, where you can do like a personalized leadership video. You can create an impact story or maybe the outcome. I like the outcome snapshots personally, because it's like, where did this go? What was it used for? And then you could see it in the community and the public. So for me, it holds better weight when it's an outcome snapshot, like last year, and we want to double it this year. Well, that gets me moving. I don't know about y'all, but I start moving. And also a lot of things at the core and the heart of everything that we do. I'm a very core value, but also a mission based. So if you're mission aligned, that invitation or even behind the scenes experiences, that's going to also hold a lot of credibility, but at the same time, it will bring in even more donor as well as retention. So I look at that because I have that systematic brain to it, is how can I make this easy, but also user friendly so it doesn't appear as if it's automated responses, but then how am I able to blend in the mission, the engagement, and the outcome expectation full circle?
Let me ask you both this. If you, most of the conversations that we've had today have been very tactical in nature, and then some theory and some philosophy. But many people had nuggets to be able to give for their earlier selves. If you could give an advice to the 21-year-old you that's just getting ready to graduate college, that's getting ready to go out there and transform a company or an organization or fulfill their passion or purpose, what would be your advice for them right now so that they can be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them?
Follow your heart. I think
Yeah.
that's I think more often you know what drives you, what motivates you and gets you moving. As Brooklyn just said, you know that gets her all jazzed. And sometimes we're caught up in, well, it has to be linear and it has
Mhm.
to follow a certain path, and that could be detrimental. I think you have to find joy in what you're doing. You have to really I tuned in earlier, Kyle, and I want to say it was Kim who said something about how she was able to be as successful both professionally and personally because she knew herself and she had done that introspective work. And I think when you're just getting out of college or just pursuing your first job, or navigating what that looks like, you haven't done so much of that. It's more of like the textbook and the college and the classroom learning. And I think it's spending time and really uncovering, like, what are the things that motivate me? When am I the most happiest? What are the skill sets and the competencies that just are natural to me and ingrained in me because of who I am? I love how Brooklyn has come back to the mustard seed part, because she says it's what sustains her organization. She answered your first question about her identity using that same response. It's a mustard seed. So to me that signifies, and I'm sorry, Brooklyn, I'm using it as an example, right? As a live example. Like, that has meaning to her. She has sat with what that statement is, what that identity and label is. And it's a part of her business. It's a part of her work. It's how she motivates people. It's how she identifies herself. And I think as young adults, if we were to do just a little bit more of that internal homework, it would bear us out, you know, much better as it relates to identifying careers and jobs and opportunities that are the right fit.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's kind of funny that you say that, Anna, because I mean, you talking with you for just a half hour now, you already understand who I am as a person, and it is ingrained in me. That's how I was raised. I mean, I come from a complete family of educators. I'm the only one in business.
Mm.
So for me, it is important that everyone has a clear understanding of who we are and who we represent, but everything is mission focused.
Mhm.
So
How do
great.
we ensure that we as individuals and professionals are aligned with the mission of either the organization that we're working for or the organization that we're building on our own?
I think that really comes with high drive. Like, again, what Anna had mentioned, what is the core? What is the center of your focus? Because everything that you're doing leads into that. You really have to be 100% on board. Not just, oh, maybe sorta, or I'm in an 80/20. That's not going to work. It's going to emulate in everything that you do. Um, you know, for me, building structures, workflows, accountability frameworks, all of that make everything we do sustainable, including the mission driven work we do in working with donors as well. I think honestly, a lot of organizations today, I have a lot of lean in my background too. So when you think of, lean, being more agile and lean has
Mhm.
had many benefits. Like, if you were to ask me that question of what would I tell my 21-year-old self, I would only tell her one thing, and I just realized it this year. And that is, I would have went to become an attorney at 21 years of age and followed it all the way through, because I am just down to research 24/7 in everything I do, that it can't, it's, our world in HR is not subjective. Nothing is subjective. Everything you're doing is backed by data, analytics, proven methodology. It's not just a thought or an idea. You have so many countless hours you need to put into the methodology itself before you ever launch it. And I think it's the driver in each person that really will hold a candle to themselves to go from conception to completion. And I'm a conception to completion gal through and through. I don't deviate from the plan.
What are your, and I want to chime in on this because I'm a conception to completion as well. I'm more so of I'm gonna complete it after I've already launched it.
That's
It's
fair.
kind of like I have this great idea. Let's just go ahead and do it. Let me tell some people so that I'm held accountable to doing it, and I'm gonna just figure it out on the way. But I find that you are very methodical though, and when things launch and all of the different resources and things that you need to have in place. Can you talk to people like me that are jump out of the window and build the plan on the way down, and why sometimes that can be risky business in business?
Yeah, I think the hundreds and hundreds of system implementations and deployments that I've done allows me to work with visionaries that do want to jump, and they're ready to go from P to,
Yeah.
to P to Z. And I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on a second. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to have some fallout if we're not careful.
Yeah.
And those experiences definitely make you resilient to be able to see it through. But here's the biggest thing that I can give as a takeaway on this one, Kyle. I don't believe in Band-Aid fixes. That's why I'm so systematic and very heavy in the method in which I use at hand. The reason for it is, if you're using a Band-Aid, what ends up happening is any workaround, any Band-Aid, any immediate instant fix, once you rip that Band-Aid off, it's going to cascade all the way down to ground, and it will fall apart if you do
That's
not.
good.
Broken underneath the Band-Aid.
Nope. I don't believe in Band-Aids. That's the very first thing I say in every project launch too, when I'm working with a group, is if you believe in Band-Aids, I'm not your gal. I really am not. Because here's the problem. Once you throw in one, then all of a sudden you're getting ready to deploy and you have 75 different Band-Aids, and they're all going to just domino effect, fall apart,
That's interesting. What's your perspective, Xana? Same question.
I'm not quite as structured as Brooklyn. I'm noting. I have some more years of experience to catch up on, but I'm also not as risk averse as you, Kyle. So I'm somewhere in the middle, right? So it's like, do I have enough? Do I feel comfortable enough with what I have?
That's
Right?
good.
So it's really that gut check, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not as risk averse naturally. So it kind of bleeds into myself professionally in terms of like, am I going to do this? Okay, let me go back to my list. Let me check off. Have I checked that all, the data points are correct? Can I fine tune the language? Is this impactful? I will ask for, a blind check from a colleague or someone else who's nowhere near connected what I'm doing, but I'm like, this is the idea, or this is what I'm trying to drive home. Is the following example, does that do that for you? So for me, it's not as extreme on either end, because for me it's like I want it to work, and it's very much connected to brand. So it's like, do you want this to fail, or like what's the probability that this is not going to be a good thing? So I go through those motions of just making sure that, when I'm going to put my name on something, or when I'm going to, press the green light and it's like a go, that I'm 100% comfortable with that. Even if it's not 100% of the way there in terms of development or just being completely operational. But I have to be comfortable with that, because if not, then some people are fueled by that adrenaline. Like, oh my God, I jumped out of the plane and I'm still flying it. Not I. I
You
want
know,
to
I
be
think
and a
I think
mentee.
Jim Collins said it. I believe it's in his book B 2.0. I mentioned the book a little bit earlier. I believe he said that get 70% of the idea together and then make a jump. And I love how he put it in his book. And he pretty much, and this concept is talked about in a lot of different books that I've read. But how he described it is essentially a lot of organizations are their productivity, their performance is paralyzed because of this idea of having all of the answers, all of the strategies,
Be
all of the
perfect.
things, trying to be perfect. And instead, he found it more effective when we do take that risk or that jump or commit to that thing with 70% of the data, and then being able to make that intentional decision, and then you leave room to be able to be innovative or leverage the experience or leverage the data as a part of that conversation or as a part of that project or that experiment. And I think that's how I am. I think, kind of going back to Brooklyn's point, I believe that I could pull off the podcastathon in 2 weeks because for the last 100 and plus days, I've been podcasting every day. So I knew that as long as I could have the people that showed up, then I know I can maintain and hold conversations for 9 hours in a given day because I love people. I love asking questions. I'm curious. But then it was all of the other back end stuff like follow-up emails and graphics and a funnel build to be able to give something away. It was all of those little pieces that was my 30%. So I guess the question is, for leaders out there that are not as risk averse as me, but leaders out there that aren't as strategic as Brooklyn, where can we find that middle ground so that we can still be productive, but not paralyzed by this idea or this mindset of trying to be perfect?
Brooklyn, I don't know if you have a response. I see you shaking your head, but what immediately comes to mind for me is the curiosity of what was it that made you pull the trigger on the podathon, on doing this? Because you knew you were at the 70%. So I'm thinking from the lens of the driver in you, to Brooklyn's earlier point, right? What was that driver that took you from that 70% to like execution? We're doing this. Was it a conversation you had with someone that validated the idea? Was it something you saw on LinkedIn? I know you're a very avid LinkedIn user. Did you see this kind of someone else manifest this idea and you're
No,
like, this is a sign I needed? Because I think that's what people need to be paying attention to, because you can sit with the idea for a very long time, but you decided not to.
I'm gonna say this. I'm glad you brought that perspective up because I didn't share this throughout the whole day. So I was on a call. I'm on a morning call every single day at 7:30 with a group of entrepreneurs, and we meet Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And one of the experts came on, and he was explaining, and it was the last week of October. So I believe the last week of October, the last day was that Saturday was November 1st, this last October. And he was communicating. He was like, what can you do in 5 days? And he gave all these examples of the Beatles Blowout soundtrack was done in 5 hours, and then the original Airbnb website and the software behind it was done in like 5 days, and all of these things, Apollo 13 was found in 5 days, like all of these things, these major things. Like he talked about Tupac Shakur, his album All Eyes on Me was like written in 5 hours or whatever the case may be. And these companies have went viral and grown and had billions of users in like 5 hours. And he challenged us on that call, like, what could you do in 5 days? Like, what could you do? And mine was attached to a financial goal and an outreach goal and an ask goal. But then I started to approach everything like that. And then I recognized a colleague of mine, shout out to Scott Leese. He had one of these for 24 hours. Now, he wasn't on it for 24 hours, but he had 24 speakers. It was, I believe, November 7th. It was 24 speakers. And literally, they were on every single hour from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. to 12 p.m. the next day. It was the craziest thing. And for me, that I'm the type of person, if I see it once, I'm no longer unexposed to it. And if you can do it, I believe that I can pull this off. And now it's like, for me, even in the podcastathon, it wasn't 70% of resources that I had. It was just 70% of confidence. I just needed to believe that I could do it. And then I think there was one person in my life that told me that, look, you can do this. And this is how you do it. These are the things that you need to do. And she's been that one person that believed in me, like from conception of this, and gave ideas. And we went back and forth with various aspects of the day. And I think for anybody listening, you need to be in spaces that you get exposed to things that are impossible. Number two is you need to align people around you that push you past your comfort zone, but not just push you past your comfort zone and have nothing to add value. You need people that push you past it, but then also have value to be able to provide you with a skill, with an idea, or with a perspective that you can use to be able to pull off that big thing. And then hold you accountable to the level of excellence to pull it off. So she reminded me, like, you need to have these types of graphics. You need to market this ahead of time. You need to send these emails out to, all of the speakers. You need to have these different things in place so that you can be excellent on that day. You need to have coffee in the morning. You need to eat. You need to take your breaks. So like, then it reminds you, like, I'm not the process person. I'm just thinking I'm going to be on camera for the next 10 hours. And
that person was your Brooklyn.
That person was my Brooklyn.
That's what it sounds like.
She's a thinker, literally.
And pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what you've articulated is that it was twofold. So you were in this space from this phone call, right? And you're like, I have this idea, I can do this. I do it every day, but now I can do it for longer. All I need is the people. Because I saw your email and I was like, oh, let me see, what is Kyle up to now? And then I was like, oh, let me respond to him. And it happened that quickly. And here we are now in the conversation. So I think you might have been closer than 70% before you launched, but then also you saw it. So I think there was like that visual and having that conversation with the person, to your point, that pushed you past your comfort zone to just say, this is a done deal. We're going to pick a date and we're going to start to work backwards, which I think is what Brooklyn was saying earlier in terms of her methodology as she approaches all things is like, I'm going to work my way backwards to where I want to be. And you wanted to have this event. So I think, you can replicate it over and over and over. Maybe this is something you do every quarter.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
I think it would be well received. And Brooklyn, I was just noting that he worked backwards, like you said earlier. He approached because he's like, I want to do this. What are the things that I need? And it came together. So I think that's the sign that you need, right? It all came together. You got the ideas, you got the resources, you got the infographics, you held the prep call with us. You reached out to just enough people that were all willing to say yes to you. So
and I think that's what
sauce, right? Like
that's what a lot of people miss, though. I think we have these ideas, but we don't have the action and the activity that meet the outcome. Like, yes, we've had almost 20 speakers on today, but it required me to reach out to 50 plus people. It required me to get no's and be comfortable, but then be willing to extend an invitation for a deeper relationship. It required me to say, or to understand that everybody's schedule wouldn't align for November 17th. It required me to go through a process. So anybody listening, none of the success that Anna nor Brooklyn nor myself has shared didn't have some activity or barrier or challenge or objection attached to it. So I guess the question with that is, when you're met with barrier, when you're met with challenge, when you're met with objection, how do you approach it? And how does that turn into the data, to the feedback, to the framework for you to be able to continue to move forward? Brooklyn, I want you to hit it first, and then Anna, close it out.
Okay. I have to say, probably for me in particular, it's that famous quote that, I guess, right back to the educator space again. If there's a will, there's a way. There's a way. And like you just mentioned earlier, Kyle, the confidence. Instantly, the whole time you and Anna were talking, I was like, all it does is it comes down to that decision. Do I have the confidence to see this through? And if the answer is yes, you're going to put every single thing, frontwards or backwards, in position. See, the number one thing I see in the last 5 to at least 10 years is not 100% accountability or follow through.
Mm.
But have you ever noticed that the most driven individuals, when it comes to methodology, when it comes to systems, when it comes to changing anything within an organization, it has to have complete follow through. If you cannot hold proper accountability structures, then you're already back one step or three. And that's not the point. The point is always to be proactive, not reactive. I think working, as long as all of us have been working, you realize you surpass that tactical hump and you go into strategic, because what happens after 10, 15 years, you no longer are reactive. You're like, oh, wait, I've went through this before. I know exactly what to do. And then it comes down to, like you mentioned, Kyle, in the confidence. It really is confidence based on making this successful.
Exactly.
That and that alone, you've got a process. You followed through on all your due diligence, and people are happy to come meet with you. I'm excited about meeting with you because you're just easy to talk to. And
Yeah.
for me, finding great communicators that are invested and they're curious and that they're going to actually follow through. Yeah, it's amazing.
Someone just called you a trooper in the
Somebody
chat.
call me a trooper. And I appreciate y'all. And I think I read a book that I want to share with everyone on here. It's called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy.
Mhm.
Probably one of the best books that I've ever read. And it's the framework essentially on how I live my life. And I'm gonna just give the concept of the book. So Ben Hardy was watching Dan Sullivan speak at an event. This was years ago. And he walked up to him I'm probably gonna butcher the story a little bit, but he walked up to him after and he said that, hey, I would love to read your book. Now, Dan Sullivan came back to Ben Hardy and was like, well, son, I don't have a book. And he was like, well, do you want to work on one together? I'd love to work on one with you. And Dan Sullivan came back to Ben Hardy and said, I don't have the time. Like that, I'm at capacity. Ben Hardy said, I would love to interview you and write the book for you. A few years later, he's a New York Times bestseller, both of them together. And then they've been able to build multi-million-dollar organizations collectively. And the concept of the book is when you're trying to figure out how to be successful at something, it's not about how do I do it. It's about who is my who that I can connect with that can help me accelerate that thing. And I just want to give you two your flowers. You were my who's. I needed to touch base with experts, with industry professionals, with people with stories, with experiences, with wisdom to be able to come onto the platform and be able to deliver so that I didn't have to come on here for 10 hours straight and be on individual episodes. That's just insane. Now then I would feel like I'm a trooper, but I wanted to then understand like, all right, who's my who? Who's the person that can help me do X? Who's the person that's going to help me do Y so that we can be able to put those two together and be able to create a great experience. So I say that for anybody that wants to create something, for somebody that wants to launch something, that wants to build something that's in our audience, who is your who? Who is the person that can be able to help you transform, that can help you enhance whatever it is that you're doing? And if it's in the advancement space, obviously it's Anna. If it's in the HR space, obviously it's Brooklyn. These are your people. So one of the questions that I have for you as we get ready for close is if you had 60 seconds to share a message with people worldwide that would watch either the live or the recording, what would be that message for them?
Persistence is key.
Mhm.
As taboo as it sounds, I think we're afraid of the unexpected. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of the no. And if you just continue and pivot, I think it's that testing theory that you mentioned earlier, Brooklyn. And I'm not a project manager by any means, but that's how I approach my job. Okay, if not this way, then what's the alternative way? If this person said no, that just means no, not right now. So let me earmark a follow up, right? So I don't lose sight of it. That follow up is strong.
Mhm.
I have the reminder to drive those things. But I think it's is persistence. You have to come, not give up, which goes in hand with your earlier notion, Brooklyn, of just having that high drive. Because
Yeah.
if Kyle had to reach out to 50 people to get 20 of us to speak today, he could have quit after the second no.
Yes, absolutely. I like that you said persistence is key because I added behind it collaboration is everything. So if you think about what it is that you're doing, what it is that I'm doing, and you fold that in together, persistence is key and collaboration is everything, and everything that we are currently doing today. That's the sustainable approach to get everyone on board, to collaborate, to win, to think outside the box. One of the things that Kyle mentioned was, you have to stretch yourself. Well, you need other people ahead of you in order to stretch yourself because it's not going to come lateral to you. It could, it very well could. But at the same time, the experience based individuals like you and I, you have to come ahead or have that forward momentum to be able to bring the next generation and the ones that want to learn the experience based, bring them up with you and alongside you
I
for a
think
big
that's
win.
the only way to address opportunity.
Oh, I
Because I
agree.
because even for myself personally, when I was first approached about stepping into the worlds of philanthropy, my first response was, I'm not a fundraiser. And they were like, well, people trust you. You have social capital. You listen. You're a relationship builder. So you technically are. It's just a different label or a different hat that you'd be wearing. And, that was belief, right? To your point, someone was interested in paving that path forward for me.
Mhm.
Um, and it was the persistence, right? In terms of like, let's continue to do this and see what we learn. I think I love collaboration is everything. That's my tagline amongst my team. Well, no, because it's real, because it's like, as an individual contributor, right? And the majority of my career, I've been an individual contributor. It's like, well, you operate in just your lane. But I'm like, but my lane touches so many other different lanes. And I'm okay being that person that connects the dot. I'm okay bringing that story to you or informing you of how my work it affects your work and vice versa, and why we need each other in order to push the work forward.
Yes.
Let me ask you all this. If you had the keys to run an organization, a Fortune 100 organization, and change one thing that they can do either operationally or with their people to be able to improve that organization, what would that one thing be in one sentence?
Brooklyn's still pondering.
I am. Because the only thing that comes to mind, because I've been in that environment already and I left that environment for a reason. Not that I didn't love it, I did love it. That chapter was done for me because it was time to fly independent because I've always been part of a team. I've always been collaborating. So that has been built within me since 21 years of age. And so I think of two things right off the cuff for me personally. I think it's what do I want to do with the rest of my life and how many people do I want to impact? So for me personally, it's all about impact. Now, going back to the Fortune 100, I made an immense amount of impact. I have been lucky and fortunate in throughout my whole career to be able to do system-wide deployments that I did not even strive to be. I landed in that because I cracked a code, and just cracking a code, again, there's a will, there's a way. And he found out I was a professor's kid. It led to a complete change in my careers, but
Yeah,
I rode that out. So I think personally, it would have to come down to authenticity and impact, really, Kyle.
that's
Because
good.
I want to spend the rest of my days making as much impact as I possibly can throughout the rest of the days that I have here on earth.
That's good. Oh, I love that.
I think top of mind for me is just stakeholder engagement. You have to be willing to listen to the people that are on the ground doing the work. And oftentimes, because of the systems that we operate, it's like it falls on deaf ears. So I'm always one of like, what's the feedback loop? have we surveyed the population we're looking to serve? Have we surveyed our funders? Are they happy people? Do they like the cadence of our communication? Do they like the means of our communication? And it's like, be willing to listen to the people or the population you are trying to serve, and don't just survey them or ask for feedback just to have it and sit there, but like make it real. Because I think that that's what sometimes creates these loops of, you see very experienced, very tenured, dedicated professionals kind of moving around because it's like, well, I had the ideas, but I wasn't being heard, or I had the suggestions, or it wasn't being implemented. And then it's like someone's always willing, to snatch them up on the other side. And I think it's a matter of we need to be asking for that and really creating the opportunity to engage our stakeholders in what those decisions are. And it's not just the board, and it's not just your C-suite or your most senior leaders, but the folks on the ground that are doing the work and being impacted by it every single day.
That is so good.
That
So
was a great
good.
response, Anna.
And I appreciate both of you so much. And I just want to, just for a second, just give you your flowers. This conversation has been amazing. It's kept me energized. I have literally 3 pages of notes from just listening to you two. And it's reminded me of the importance of creating processes. It's reminded me of the importance of really curating intentional relationships. It's reminded me of the importance of leaning on my people. It's reminded me of the importance of believing in something that is bigger than me. And it's reminded me of the importance of just doing it, even if it's not all done, and trusting in your confidence, trusting in your experience, and trusting in what's around you, your community, to be able to pull off that big win. Anybody listening right now, Anna, Brooklyn, where can they find you online?
On LinkedIn, Anna Marte.
Same here. Brooklyn Stanfield, HR Bureau, LLC, or hrbureaullc.com, our website as well. But I'm definitely on LinkedIn, as well as our business is on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, thank you, Kyle. It's a pleasure to be on here. I'm forever grateful.
They can also find us through you, Kyle.
Yeah.
They can. They sure can. They're everywhere.
Yeah, so even if you don't remember a name, you could just go to Kyle's page and be like, who are the folks he had invited?
Who are those people?
Yes.
I appreciate you two so much. And if you guys are new to the Podcastathon 2025, welcome. It's been a day. And we have one more session. And I'm excited. I'm excited. So I'm going to go on a quick 2-minute break. I don't want anybody to go anywhere at all. We're going to go on a 2-minute break. We're going to come back at 5:01 on the dot. And then I'm going to bring up some